explosions rocked multiple cities across Iran, including its capital, Tehran. Videos from Tehran.
Stop. What does it look like when the world's most advanced fighter jet strikes a target before the enemy even knows it's coming? When radar screens show nothing, and then, without warning, entire military ports erupt in fire. This is what happened to Iran. No warning, no time to react, no escape. Because the F-15E Strike Eagle doesn't announce itself, it just arrives. And when it does, everything burns. For decades, Iran ran the same playbook. Control the Strait of Hormuz, and you control the world's energy supply. 21 miles wide at its narrowest point. 20 million barrels of oil passing through every single day. 1 out of every 5 barrels the entire world consumes. Moving through a corridor Iran believed they owned. IRGC fast boats swarmed commercial ships for years, buzzing tankers, circling cargo vessels, sending one message to every nation that runs on Gulf oil: we decide who passes. And when tensions exploded on February 28th, Iran made their boldest move yet. A senior IRGC commander went on national radio and said 5 words: "The Strait of Hormuz is closed." Naval mines dropped into shipping lanes. Drone boats began hunting tankers. Oil prices exploded past $126 a barrel. Shipping giants suspended operations completely. Analysts called it the biggest energy disruption since the 1970s. Iran had done it. They had made the entire world flinch. And they believed nobody could touch them. They were wrong. Here's what Iran didn't understand. While they were focused on the water below, the United States had already owned the sky above them. For weeks before the first explosion, American intelligence had been building a complete picture of Iran's military infrastructure. Every pier, every airbase, every command center, every radar installation, every communication tower, every single node that kept Iran's military machine running. They knew it all. And on the night the strikes began, Iran's radar screens showed nothing. No incoming aircraft. No threat signatures, no warnings. B-2 Spirit stealth bombers, invisible to every radar system Iran had deployed, were already overhead. Silent, precise, deadly. And flying in behind them, F-15E Strike Eagles, dual-role combat aircraft built for one purpose: total destruction of ground targets with zero margin for error. Armed with precision-guided munitions, capable of releasing weapons from distances so far outside Iranian air defense range that by the time Iran's systems detected anything, the missiles were already hitting. Iran never had a chance to respond. Not because they weren't watching, but because by the time they saw it, it was already over. First target, Bandar Abbas, Iran's most critical naval base. The headquarters of everything: their warship fleet, their fast boat operations, their command and control, their air bases. The entire brain of Iran's Gulf strategy sitting right on the coastline. The strikes hit with surgical precision. The Shahid Bahonar Pier, the main hub for Iran's naval operations, struck directly. Gone. One of Iran's newest warships, still docked in port, nowhere near a battlefield, took a direct hit and sank in its own harbor. Not at sea, not in combat. In port. Then the second wave hit. Air bases targeted, runways cratered, command facilities reduced to rubble, communication networks severed. Iran's naval commanders scrambled to understand what was happening, but their communication systems were already down. Orders couldn't get through. Coordination collapsed. And according to multiple intelligence reports, a precision strike eliminated the commander of the IRGC Navy himself. The man who ordered the strait closed. The man who built Iran's entire Gulf strategy. Gone. Bandar Abbas, the nerve center of Iran's maritime power, had been dismantled in a matter of hours. But the F-15s weren't done, because Bandar Abbas was only the beginning. Simultaneously, on Iran's southeastern coast, a second wave was already inbound. Chabahar, home to critical IRGC army bases, weapons depots supplying Iran's entire southern military network, logistics centers coordinating operations across the Gulf, command posts that had survived for decades, untouched, believed to be unreachable. The strikes arrived without warning. Command posts flattened, supply depots destroyed, communication towers cut down one by one. Wave after wave after wave, each strike precisely calculated to cut one more thread in Iran's military command structure. And here's what made it devastating. Iran couldn't coordinate a defense because the strikes were simultaneously hitting the systems they needed to coordinate with. By the time commanders in Tehran understood the full scope of what was happening, Chabahar's military infrastructure had already been reduced to rubble. And then Iran tried to save face. State media rushed on air, claiming they had shot down an American aircraft over Chabahar, using a brand new air defense system nobody had seen before. They released footage, declared victory. U.S. CENTCOM responded within hours. 3 words: no aircraft lost. Flat, cold, final. Iran's propaganda, just like their air defenses, had failed completely. Step back for a second, because what just happened wasn't just military destruction. It was the collapse of an entire strategy. For decades, Iran sold one idea to the world, that the Strait of Hormuz made them untouchable, that their fast boats, their missiles, their mines, their drones created a shield nobody could penetrate, that any country that challenged them would pay an unbearable economic price. The strikes on Bandar Abbas and Chabahar didn't just destroy buildings, they destroyed that idea. Because here's what they proved, once and for all: you can close a strait, but you cannot close the sky. While Iran controlled every mile of water in the Gulf, the United States controlled every inch of airspace above it. B-2 bombers Iran couldn't detect, Reaper drones that circled for hours before a single strike landed, F-15E Strike Eagles releasing weapons from distances that made every Iranian air defense system completely irrelevant. Iran's Navy commander? Eliminated. Iran's newest warship? At the bottom of its own harbor. Iran's command infrastructure? Systematically destroyed. And Iran's response? Panic. Scrambling. Reacting. Always reacting. Never leading. Never controlling. Never dominating. That is what total air superiority looks like. That is what the F-15E does when it is unleashed without restriction. The strikes on Chabahar and Bandar Abbas sent a message that every military in the world understood. No port is safe, no commander is unreachable, no air defense system is guaranteed, no strategy built on geography survives contact with American air power. Iran gambled that controlling the strait would protect them from consequences. The F-15E Strike Eagle answered that gamble with precision-guided munitions delivered without warning at targets Iran believed were untouchable. And the result? Iran's most critical naval base dismantled. Iran's southeastern military hub destroyed. Iran's naval commander gone. Iran's propaganda exposed. Iran's air defenses bypassed completely. This is what happens when the world's most powerful air force decides a threat needs to end. It doesn't negotiate. It doesn't warn. It doesn't miss. Iran closed the strait and told the world, touch us and the global economy collapses. The F-15E flew over their most protected military ports and answered, we already did. Control is temporary. Dominance is proven in the sky. And on the night those F-15s rolled in over Chabahar and Bandar Abbas, the sky belonged to one side only. If this breakdown gave you a real picture of what U.S. air power looks like when unleashed, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, because this was one operation, one night, one message, and there is more to come.